Welcome to Polishing Game Objects in the Unity 5 Gameplay course by Back Publishing. In this video, we are going to polish our game objects so that they are more visually appealing. We will also demonstrate our changes in game mode. Okay, let's launch Unity 5. In Unity 5, we have our game environment loaded with several basic 3D objects that we created using Unity's native functionality. Let's start by changing the view. It will be easier for us if we have better visibility of our objects. So here we can see the wall on the left and 3 cubes to the right and center. We'll start by selecting the wall. See, when I select the wall, its outline is framed in the orange border. That's just a selection box. And we can see the inspector is populated. Now this started as a cube and we changed the shape, but the name is still cube. Let's change that name to wall. And you see that we do not have the cube tag assigned to it, which is good because we don't want to treat it as a cube, we want to treat it as a wall. The transform, we can change the positions, we can rotate it, we can change the scale, we can do this with these input boxes or with the transform tools up in the top left of our interface. But we don't want to do that now. We have box collider. If we deselect that and put this into game mode, we navigate the character over to the wall and you see the character goes right through it. We are now taking this out of game mode and we want the box collider selected because we do not want the player to be able to walk through it. We can change the material by selecting this small circle to the right of that input box. And here you can see, based on the physics and materials that are in the standard asset pack, what's available. We'll just pick rubber. And what we would like to do now is to change the appearance. So under materials, what you see under mesh renderer, see element 0. And there it has the default material selected. We can change this a couple of different ways. The first way is through this little circle to the right of the input box. And then we can navigate to the material we want, select it, and it will be applied. We can also go to project view and then navigate to the materials. And let's go under environment, maybe effects. I'll select glass refraction and then materials, and then I'll take my left mouse button to select it, and I'll drag it over into the element 0 input box where it says default material over in the inspector view. And when I release it, you can see that it changes both in the inspector view and in the scene view. And when we put that in game mode, you can clearly see that the wall has changed. And it's a very special, you can see that it's very reflective. We can see our own reflection as well as a reflection of the 3D objects on the other side. We'll now take this out of game mode and turn to our cubes and zoom in on the cubes. You'll recall that each one of these cubes has the tag cube assigned to it, and we will show in a later video how that will come in handy. For now, we have one cube selected, and we're going to go over to the element. And we'll just select one at random, and you can see it change it. Now, here we have spatial mapping wireframe, and we can select shaders, we can edit the shader, we can override certain settings, but typically in a game, if you have an object such as a cube, that depends of course on the game itself, but you typically don't want a solid color. You want something that's a tile type texture so that it blends from one side of the cube to another. So let's look at a different asset, and we'll look under about environment, terrain assets, and then surface textures, and we'll pick one of the grass ones. We'll drag it onto the cube directly. This time we dragged it into scene view, we'll do this again with Muddy Rock into that cube, then the sand on the other one. And then as we, in scene view, select each one, you can see that the mesh renderer has the correct material identified. So these are seemingly random. We have this big sphere, which now will change the shape to make it a bit more manageable. And then we will move it out of the way. And let's select a texture for that as well. And I'm just randomly selecting materials. There's some textures. Okay, now we have 3 spheres that we should color. So in Inspector View, under Mesh Renderer and then Materials, we're going to click on Element 0 and select 3 different random materials. And put this in game mode, and we'll see just a collection of objects. Now you might notice that one of our spheres has an animation. Let's take this out of game mode, and we'll see why that is. Because we picked a water simple texture, and that's a texture that's in motion, so to speak. So we should probably change that. If we wanted it to move, we can write a script for that. There we go. And now one final time in game mode, and we'll see all 3 spheres are dormant. And if you look closely, you'll see that they blend well from one plane to another, and the spheres look very natural. An easy way of quickly polishing your 3D objects so they look more than just like arbitrary objects in your game. In this section, we created 3D game objects natively. We were able to relocate and resize the shapes with relative ease. We also polished them to make them more visually appealing for a game environment. Next up, importing and using assets.